Hello everyone, welcome to another video with Professor Choi. Today we are going to be talking about how to build your dividend portfolio. Now, one of the things that I always say when I buy a particular stock is that it has to pay at least a small dividend. And of course, this is not true for all the stocks that I buy, but it is a general rule of thumb for me to buy a particular stock. I don't, as I've said to plenty of people, I don't really trade too much. So I'm one of those people that basically buys a particular stock at certain times and then sort of, waits for it to grow. And I just buy and hold most of the time until the cycle changes. So I do a lot of my buying and selling based on the point where we are on the business cycle. Now, one of the things that you should always have in your portfolio is some kind of dividend stock, some kind of dividend paying stock. And the reason for that is because it's going to be money that's coming into your portfolio that you don't really need to worry about too much, especially if you pick the right dividend stocks. Now, first, let's talk about what dividends are in case you're a newbie watching this video. But when a company gets revenue, after that, they got to pay taxes, they got to pay expenses, etc., etc., etc. Now, at some point, they have all the money that they got left over, and they have two basic things that they can do with it. So one basic thing is to basically pay it out to shareholders. These are what dividends are. Or they can keep it and use it to reinvest in the company. Now, some of the best companies out there today don't really give you any dividends. They basically just keep using the money that comes into the company, whatever is left over, and they put it right back into the company in order to be able to grow it. Okay? So a company that grows very quickly has to be able to, whatever money they just made, take it and basically put it right back into the business so they can keep growing. I want you to think about a really good example is Amazon since they started. So, every time they make more money, they use expenses, blah, blah, they pay the rest, and then they take the rest of the money and grow. And, think about getting another warehouse, expanding your fleet of drivers, trying to get into another market, etc., etc., etc. So companies like Amazon, as of the day of this video, don't really pay any dividends, but they do grow. Now, if you are one of those people like myself, that you do want to get paid a little, for holding these companies, then a lot of the companies out there, they would be willing to pay you these dividends. So what they do again with the money that they receive is they take a piece of it and they put it and give it back to you. So you get this constant cash flow into your portfolio. And that's the reason why most people create a dividend portfolio. In other words, or at least a piece of your portfolio could be a dividend portfolio because they want this cash flow to come right back in. All right. So how do you put some dividend stocks into your portfolio? Well, the first thing we need to do is we need to go search them out online to see if we can find anything good out there. And a really good place to start is simply to go search online for what they call Dividend Aristocrats. And this is an ETF basically created by ProShares that uses companies on the S&P 500, and they create this Dividend Aristocrat ETF, ticker NOBL. Now you can choose to buy this ticker, and again what you basically are doing is you're buying all of these Dividend Aristocrats companies together, or you can choose to kind of pick and choose from there, which is what I'm trying to show you right now. Okay, so I did a bit of a search, and I found out a list of these Dividend Aristocrat stocks that we can use. And here it is. This is a full list, or an updated list of the Dividend Aristocrats. Again, these are companies that are on the S&P 500 and basically pay constant dividends and have increased their dividends over time for a really long time. This particular person doing the screener is doing for at least 25 consecutive years. So again, these are companies that have paid a dividend for a very long time, 25 years or so, and their dividend has grown over time. All right? So you could pick any of the companies on this list and put it on your portfolio, and you are, I wouldn't say assured, but you are in really good hands that you're going to get a particular dividend coming into you regularly. All right? Now I want to highlight that not all these companies pay a high percentage of the price of the stock in dividends. They pay a portion of. So you need to be mindful of which one you buy. Let's go back into our trustworthy Yahoo Finance that we talked about before and figure this one out. All right. So this I have already a way to get to this. So if you're not familiar with how to get to Yahoo Finance, I have all the videos explaining that, and I kind of went over also some of these statistics here. But the number that we're looking for is this yield right here, the one that says yield. All right, which tells us about the dividend yield that this particular stock, in this case an ETF, is paying. Now let's look into one of those aristocrats, which is AT&T. Now the current dividend for AT&T is 7%, which basically means that out of this number here, 29.02, you're going to get paid $2.08 a year, or 7% of your money. So basically, if you buy a stock on AT&T, every year you're going to get paid about $2.08. And if you look at a chart of AT&T in the past 5 years, notice that they pay the dividend pretty much regularly. And again, that's also why they made it into that Dividend Aristocrat list, because not only have they paid dividend for those 5 years, but they pay the dividend pretty much forever. All right. Now, of course, as you can see, though, the stock hasn't really grown much. So as I was explaining, growth stocks usually grow faster in value than because they're taking that money and reinvesting it back into the company. So if you get a company that pays dividends, and the dividends a bit too high, like the one for AT&T, and they're not reinvesting too much money back into the company. By the way, also as a warning, because as the day of this video, AT&T has said that they will probably be cutting the dividend. They didn't say it on those words, but they released a plan where about a year from now or so, that dividend will probably be cut, and that's because they want to be investing more money in 5G, which, if you ask me, by the way, is not such a bad thing. Now, regardless, they're going to keep their dividend. Now, why would you want to select a company like AT&T, for example? Or if you don't like AT&T, by the way, for whatever reason, Verizon has a pretty good yield as well. So here's the stock of Verizon. They have a yield right now of 4.39%. So you're going to get paid every year $2.51 in dividends. You get paid quarterly. So you take that number divided by 4, and that's what you get paid quarterly, out of the $57.38, which is the cost of Verizon today. Okay? So you're going to get paid that. Now, Verizon is another company that has paid dividends for quite a while. As you can see, in the past 5 years, regular dividends every quarter. Every quarter means every 3 months, by the way. Of course, as you can see, the stock hasn't really gone up that quickly. But you have a really nice cash flow coming into your portfolio, which you can then use to either buy more stock or buy some other stock. Okay, let's take a look at the those Dividend Aristocrats. Take this out of here, and let's check out some of those names. So one of the names on the list that I just showed you is 3M. And notice that the yield for 3M is 2.91. Now, I always like to look, by the way, for companies that are pretty much safe. In other words, you don't need to worry about them going bankrupt. And remember, I explained this before, but basically the easiest way to figure out whether a company is going to go bankrupt or not, one is their market cap, the larger the better, and the other one has to do with cash flow. So you're going to look for the financials, and we need to make sure that the company has steady cash flow, earnings, revenue, okay? So money that's coming in, and is it, can you basically trust this company to continue to do well? As I mentioned, though, usually just buying very large company will give you a lot of that safety that you're looking for. All right. So this is 3M. 3M does sticky things, the way I like to explain it. So they make, tape and glue and things like that, which a lot of us have to use for many things. All right. So this is a pretty safe company. Another company that's pretty safe on this list is Coca-Cola. Now, yes, there's been a trend out of basically buying fizzy beverages like Coca-Cola, but Coca-Cola has expanded into all these other things that people want to buy. So basically, today they're not just Coca-Cola; they also buy, they also own water company, bottled water companies, and so on and so forth. So it's not like you're just investing on quote unquote the red can. All right. Now Coca-Cola has a dividend right now of about 3% of your money. Now let me show you some of the higher dividends on that list. And remember, again, you can look for that list. Just Google Dividend Aristocrats, and you'll find a really good list at the Motley Fool. Okay, but let me find you some of the ones that pay the highest dividend on that list. A company like NextEra Energy, for example. Oh, never mind, look, the dividend's only now 2%, maybe they cut it. All right, now if you look at NextEra Energy, all right, notice again that NextEra Energy has paid dividends regularly. NextEra Energy is a utility company. Utilities, by the way, in general, electric companies is another word for that. They pay regular dividends. If you want to buy an ETF that is full of utilities, you could do XLU. Notice that XLU has a steady dividend because what it holds inside its ETF is basically all of those dividend payers. Okay, and if we come over here, put XLU, all right, it has a 3% yield on dividends. All right, let's take a look at another option. Now, real estate investment trusts are some of the favorites for plenty of people. Ticker like O, for example. Now, in the current environment, as of the moment when I'm making this video, a lot of these REITs, is what they call them, or REITs, are coming back. In other words, the stock price is going back up. And they are required by law, when they have positive cash flows, to basically distribute a lot of that stuff on dividends. Some of the REITs have basically stopped distributing dividends because they have negative cash flows. These companies, what they do is they basically rent out properties. So they own lots of properties, and then they rent those out. Now, of course, because of the COVID pandemic in the year 2020 and the subsequent economic slowdown, lots of places closed down. And therefore, these REITs, or real estate investment trusts, stop making money or as much money as before, and they have to start borrowing some money, aka negative cash flow. All right, so they had to cut their dividend, stop their dividend. Let me give you an example of some of these. All right, so notice that right now the earnings per share is negative 253, which basically means they're losing money and they don't have a dividend. But if you look at the at EPR over say 5 years, notice that it's paid dividends, and then of course the COVID 2020 recession hit and they stopped. There's nothing really, by the way, it's wrong to stop paying dividends in the sense that the business is strained. In other words, there's a problem with this business, that's why they stop paying the dividend. But there's nothing wrong with it in the sense that that's what the company is supposed to do, because they can't just pay out money that they don't have. Okay, so as long as they reinvest that dividend correctly or get back on track, they should pay the dividend back. Now, a company that hasn't really stopped paying that dividend is this one, Realty Income Corporation, or ticker O. Okay, so as you can see, they are still paying a dividend. I would have to do an analysis if it's the same or not, but basically this company has done much better apparently than some of the other ones, and they have been able to keep paying their dividend. All right, unlike some of the other ones out there. Let me show you another one. Again, these are just examples of some of these REITs. Okay. All right, notice that in this particular case, dividend kind of went down a little. All right, so this is another list that I found, by the way. So I just Google Dividend Aristocrats or 25 top paying dividend stocks. This is another one that I found. And these are some of the companies that you could be buying that pay regular dividends. Emerson Electric is a utility company. Aflac, Pepsi, General Dynamics, Raytheon, Coca-Cola, Nucor, 3M, Consolidated Edison, another utility company. Now I know a lot of people today are not going to like oil companies, but some of the ones that have been basically paying dividends forever are oil companies. Something like ExxonMobil. All right, and their dividends for the moment that we're in right now is pretty high. So we're kind of like in the right time of the cycle to get some of these stocks. And again, oil stocks have paid dividends for a very long time. Now, of course, they're out of favor now, but they do have these steady dividends. So as long as they figure out how to transition from where they are to a quote-unquote new future, then they should be okay and may be part of your portfolio. All right? So what did we learn today? Well, today we learned that if we are going to create a portfolio and we want some stocks to put in that portfolio, we want also some dividend paying stocks. You can find a lot of these dividend paying stocks by doing some of the basic searches that I just explained, and those dividend paying stocks are going to create steady cash flow into your portfolio, which is the biggest reason why I have it, by the way. It creates this like really nice steady cash flow. A lot of these companies are companies that I don't need to worry about. They have a fantastic clientele. They do something that we all need all the time. So it's basically something you can basically set it and forget it, and you get all these dividends, and then you use, of course, this money that comes into your portfolio, and you can reinvest it on those dividend stocks, or you could basically put it on some other new stock that's growing faster. All right, and it's part of diversification in your portfolio. Okay? So, in any case, if you enjoy the videos or if you learn something new, remember that you should subscribe to my channel, or you should at least hit that like button. It basically tells me that you're okay, like my videos, and I should be doing more. So, thank you very much for watching today's video, and hopefully you learn a little bit more about dividend stocks. Have a good one.